Happy week 5, ladies and gents. Welcome to the NFL betting show on FTN Network. Abby Labar, Mike Randle, Chris Meany joining us. He was not with us last week, but we still had some fun. And I guess now you can defend yourself a little bit because we did share your pick, which did kind of compete with what Randall was going with. I think Randall's the one that took that one. Sorry, Chris, but any words for yourself?
No, I didn't even remember what I picked before we came on here, and you guys told me I was on Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, no excuses. It was an easy switch before kickoff when Deshaun Watson was ruled out of that football game. So an easy switch, a tough go for the backup quarterback in Cleveland. Yeah. Looked like a high school kid out there getting rocked left, right, and center against the division rival Baltimore Ravens. But yeah, we're back here week 5. I know Randall had a big week in terms of just the straight money line plays as well. So it was a nice, solid week. And here we go. Week 5 already. Are you kidding me? Calendar's turned October. Let's go.
I know.
I am just thrilled that I cut Meany. It's like Drago and Rocky. He is not a machine. He's a man. I finally, after him burying me week after week, was able to get through. We have to keep the momentum going. I am cut. I am bloodied in the corner, but I am still standing vertical against Mr. Meany.
I love it. All right, guys. 49ers and Eagles, the only 2 unbeaten teams right now in the league. What surprised you all through the first 4 weeks? Just quick tidbits on that. Meany, I'll go with you first.
Yeah, nothing about the Eagles and the Niners have surprised me. They are the top of the top, is certainly inside the NFC. I think the Niners are the most complete team in the NFL. If I was doing some power rankings, I'd have them 1. I probably would have the Eagles 2, the Bills 3, and the Chiefs. I think the most surprising thing here after 4 weeks is Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Like Joe Burrow ranks near the bottom in every single offensive category, the shortest ADOT of his NFL career. Now, T. Higgins is dealing with fractured ribs. They got a matchup against Arizona, which is another team that's been surprising. They've been competitive. They really could have started the season 3-0. They kind of hung around with the Niners a little bit last week as well. And I would have, fast forward. Like if I was just looking ahead before the season started at this week 5 matchup with Cincinnati and Arizona, I would have assumed that they would have been 7.5, at least touchdown favorites. And now, opened up at 2.5. They're 3-point favorites. It's a must-win situation for Cincinnati. If they don't win this ball game this week, 1-4, pretty much the end of their season. So that is probably the most surprising takeaway 5 weeks into the season. Not shocked that the Niners and the Eagles are rolling.
I would say probably surprising and a little disappointing because I think we were all hoping for something different when it comes to that team. Randall, are there any teams that have surprised you in a good way? Hey, where in the world did this come from?
Yeah. Shout out to Tampa Bay, a 3-1 leading the NFC South, and shout out to Aaron Schatz, who correctly predicted this. Was high on Tampa Bay, predicted them as a division winner. Everyone else, like myself, Atlanta, et cetera, very impressed here. Baker Mayfield, got to see the status of Mike Evans, who left the game early last week, but they surprised me. And how about the Lions? One of the few teams I can remember that is meeting the preseason expectations that are there. We just put it out on the X machine today. Detroit, 3rd in rush defense DVOA, 3-1 for Detroit, flying high here. Those are my 2 surprises.
Is that what it's called now? I still keep saying tweet. Am I Xing or am I tweeting? I'm confused.
I'm saying X. X is a cool letter.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Degeneration X? Yes? Anybody? No? Okay.
DMX. Yeah. X going to give it to you. Exhibit. Throw up the X. Who knows? I say Twitter. I don't think I'll ever say X, but whatever. The Lions are great. We're going to give them a little bit more love later on. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like they played anyone fantastic. They went into Kansas City and won that game. Was awesome. Mm-hmm. But they're certainly legit. And the Bucs too. I mean, the Bucs defense is solid. Baker's playing really good football. And I'm not ready to say that they're going to win the division. I still think I like the Saints, Randall, to win that division. But the Bucs, both teams could probably get into the playoffs if they're hanging around 500.
There he goes with the Saints. Hey, Randall asked me who my pick was for besides what we talked about on the show. He asked me what I had for Sunday, and I took the Bucs. And It wasn't publicly posted anywhere, but I'm going to toot my own horn for a second because I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah, they're playing really good football.
They are.
When these division teams play each other too, like the 3.5, so I usually lean with, the plus 3.5 because it's always pretty tight.
All right, Randall, let's keep the mojo going for you. We're going to dive into a prop bet that you're looking at to start Thursday Night Football. Bears at Commanders. What is happening with the Bears still? But that's not the topic of conversation. You're looking at Brian Robinson.
Yeah, the topic of conversation is Brian Robinson, who we have to get on board, is one of the best running backs in the NFL. You know, he actually caught passes in college, and everyone thought it was going to be Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's on the side of a milk carton right now, just does not get any run. Chris Rodriguez, the backup running back, still questionable with an illness, may not play in this game. Per our utilization report here at FTN, Robinson, third in the NFL in team rushing attempts, carrying 73.4% of the Commanders' ground opportunities. Here come the Bears with a horrific run defense. Brian Robinson over 63.5 rushing yards, got it -110 on BetMGM. I think he's going to be heavily involved. Washington, 5.5-point favorite. Chicago defense, 31st, second worst in fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. We project Robinson for 69.3 yards here. I love it. I got it on a parlay to go over 90. That he was stuck last week against the Eagles' run defense, which is number 1 per DVOA. Should have had a second touchdown. You saw that at the goal line there, guys. Fumbled. Terry McLaurin fell on it. That was tough sledding. Thursday night is not going to be tough sledding. At home, 2-2 Commanders. I love Brian Robinson, and you should too, over 63.5 rushing yards.
Meaning he was so confident in this that he was like in our Slack message earlier. He's like, Brian Robinson over whatever the number is. I don't care. I'm like, put that on the graphic. Like Brian Robinson over whatever it is. I don't care. So
yeah, I think too, like people watching the show maybe a little bit later on, this line will move because I put it in the tracker last night. I could see it right here, 1:59 a.m. What am I doing up at 1:59 a.m.? I am looking at prop lines like an absolute psycho. I should probably be getting to bed and get some sleep, but 61.5 is what I saw last night. And just to kind of get into it a little bit more, like if the Bears rank 31st in total DVOA defense, 21st against the run, and Mike mentioned it, like against the Eagles last week is a really tough spot. They allowed the second fewest rushing yards. Before that, those 70 against the Bills, 87 the week before. Chicago has allowed 384 rushing yards to running backs, which is inside the top 10. And they've coughed up the most receiving yards too. So it may even get a couple catches. I'm seeing actually Mike at BetMGM right now using our prop shop, 62.5 at -110, but other books have 64 and 65. So 6.5 receiving yards, you can get over 72.5 rushing and receiving yards, as well as a number that I like at -110. But this number may climb up a bit. I was going to ask Mike, what would it go to for him to not take it? And I guess it doesn't matter. Question. It would have to be like 125.
No, it comes down, guys, with the props. We talk about this. You want to project how the game is going to go, and that's how you affect it. That's how it affect the props. The two props I hit for Seattle and Giants, same exact thing, how I thought it was going to go. Zach Charbonnet got some run, got over, and Isaiah Hodgins got his third reception at plus money. Thank you, FTN Prop Shop. In this situation, I think Washington gets up big or eventually separates. It's the fourth quarter, and we are pounding Brian Robinson into the line. I would go 70, 73 comfortably, Chris. But as I said, I got it at 90 on a parlay. Holding out hope here for the high-end production of triple digits for Brian Robinson. I love him as a top 5 fantasy option, and I love him in this matchup.
Feeling himself today. I love the energy. Speaking of feeling themselves, not the Carolina Panthers. I don't know what's happening in my poor home state, but this team cannot sustain any offensive drives, and they have to deal with the Lions this week. Meanie, are you laying the points for the Lions?
I thought you said feeling himself. A little revenge game for Adam. Facing his actually not facing his former team. He faced him last year, but I'm not at all. But I am in on Detroit, and hopefully they make me look smart here. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about DVOA. The Lions, legit 5th in total DVOA. Mike talked about 3rd in rush, 8th against the pass, and Carolina just a complete opposite. 26th in total DVOA, dead last versus the run. How about Dave Montgomery? I mean, everybody is crying about Jahmyr Gibbs not getting usage, but Dave Montgomery looks good, right? Yeah. He's got 69 rushing attempts, which is inside the top 5, and he's only played 3 games. Right, he missed 1 game, and he's got 5 rushing touchdowns over that span as well. So Carolina struggling to stop the run, and if you just flip them overall and look at their offensive numbers, Detroit number 4 in total DVOA. So 5th in total DVOA defensively and 4th offensively. 4th in pass DVOA, 6th in rush DVOA, and Carolina 26th overall, 22nd against the pass, and 26th against the run. Then you mentioned, Abby, about them not being able to move the ball. Like, Bryce Young has a 65% completion rate, which is fine. It's okay, right? As a rookie, I think ultimately they're going to look back and say they're probably already having the conversations. My goodness, CJ Stroud looks like he is awesome. Like, I always thought CJ Stroud should have been the first overall pick. It's maybe a little early, but Young, 4.9 yards per attempt. It's amazing that only Joe Burrow has a lower number than that. What is, again, so shocking here that we're into week 5 and it's Bryce Young that's 33rd in yards per attempt, and it's Joe Burrow that's 34th, but 167 yards through the air per game only. Mike's boy, Anthony Richardson, has a lower number than that. 2 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions for Bryce Young as well. And
you're hurting me.
On top of all of that, so the defense is good. They can run the ball. Carolina can't move the ball. They can't stop the run. And then we have Jared Goff. His splits last year at home and on the road, significant. At home last year, 23 passing touchdowns and 3 picks. On the road last year, 6 passing touchdowns and 4 picks. He had a higher completion percentage in Detroit, more yards per attempt, a 109 rating versus 87. And so far this year, it's looking very similar. 4 touchdowns, 2 picks at home, 8.3 yards per attempt, 73% completion rate, 65% completion rate on the road, and only 7.3 yards per attempt as well. So it's a big number, but I don't expect Carolina to score a lot of points. I don't have a prop for Sam Laporta, but this is a freak. He is trending up. He's getting red zone looks. He was plus 280 we gave last week on Mean Streets to find the end zone, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. I'm seeing plus 190 for him touchdown. I would take anything over 4.5 grabs. Roughly 55, 56 yards is probably what his receiving yard prop is. I know they're going to get Jameson Williams back this game, but I don't expect him to be a full go. He's probably only going to play like 25% of the snaps. I'm really, really impressed with Sam Laporta and what he's doing as a rookie tight end. Detroit's for real.
And to help you out here, Carolina has yet to record an against the spread win. So things might be looking your way for that one. Okay, so we've talked enough about, the Panthers not being good. Lions are good. Who else is really good, guys? Cowboys and the 49ers. This is a very exciting matchup. Lots of playoff history in this one. So 2 NFC clubs that we are looking forward to watching go head to head. So I know you both have comments in regards to this one. Randall, we'll start with you.
Per my friend Marcus Mosier, this will be week 23 without the Cowboys having their full starting offensive line. That is a problem against San Francisco. And it also is a problem is, were we really impressed with the Cowboys? Let's recap the quarterbacks that the Cowboys have played this year. Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Josh Dobbs lost that game, by the way, and Mac Jones. So now we're going against Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, who can't stop scoring touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk looks like a top 3 NFL wide receiver. The defense, the Niners, I'm done with the Cowboys. I think this is a bad spot for them. I know they have revenge on their mind because nobody cares. This team, there is a huge chasm of difference in their offensive DVOA. The Niners are super efficient. The Cowboys are not. Dak has not produced yet. Tony Pollard in the red zone cannot find his way into the end zone, and they're not rushing effectively, even though they're playing teams that they should be able to run against. Tony Pollard with the 20 for 55 lines every single week. I'm taking San Francisco, laying the 3.5. I know it's 3.5, Chris, and I know that's a frisky number. I just think the Niners are the better team. They're the better team by DVOA. They're the better team by their schedule, who they've played so far. And I think the Cowboys are coming in, and they're going to be licking their wounds after this game.
Okay, Mike, but you said it. Like, revenge on the line. Come on, let's buy in, Meanie. Give us some Cowboys.
No chance. I would love to see both of these teams find a way to lose. But we'll go here with San Fran. I agree with everything that Mike said. I'm not impressed at all with Dallas's offense. Their defense is good. We know this. They're first in DVOA, total defense, right? They beat up on some of those quarterbacks that Mike is alluded to, but offensively, they're struggling. Like, Dak hasn't been good. Offensively, they're 16th in total DVOA, and San Fran is just up at the top in every single metric that we care about. Again, number 2 in DVOA, second in offense, 7th in defense. Purdy has been perfect this year. He's 4-0. He's got a 72% completion rate, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks. Last year in the regular season, he was 6-0. He had 2 passing touchdowns in every single game. This is actually the first time these two teams have played in primetime since the 90s. I saw that stat and I was like, wow, because like these are two, you know, the top of the top, like the organizations, they have a lot of history. They have a lot of Super Bowls. These two teams have played each other in the playoffs in each of the last 2 years. The Niners have had their way in both of those games. Like last year, this is a 19-12 win for San Fran, and Zeke and Pollard did nothing on the ground, and Dak couldn't do anything either. He had 2 picks, and Purdy didn't even have to do anything in that game. He's just coached really well. They got all the weapons. Debo didn't really play last week. I think it was just more so the matchup against Arizona. I would expect them to be full go this week against Dallas. So, yeah, it should be a good game. You know, it's awesome that it's going to be prime time, and it's great that these two teams are off to good starts. But I have a lot of questions about the Cowboys' offense, and they're going to have to bring it this week. And I'm just not sold on Dak. So I'm with Mike here. San Fran -3.5.
All right, there we go. Moving on, we just mentioned it earlier, like the disappointment that is the Joe Burrow situation and the Cincy offense. They were held to just 4.1 yards a play. That is also credit to this Tennessee team and the Titans. I know, Randall, you're still high on the Titans. We actually saw the Derrick Henry we know and love can be the true Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Like, there we go. That was fun. What are you liking about their matchup this week at Indianapolis?
Oh, I'm going here with Tennessee. And it's interesting. This line has flipped already. I wrote it up as one of my money line underdogs. Titans +1.5 against the Colts. I think at some books now, the Titans are actually the favorite. Colts were dominated at home by the Rams, and Chris knows this. I get that Anthony Richardson's going to score fantasy points, but a lot of those points, guys, came last week when he was running, trying to make up a massive deficit. We finally had the Derrick Henry game, as you said. Tennessee head coach here, Mike Vrabel, 26-16-1. That's 62% against the spread for Bet Labs as an underdog, 24-13-1 as a road underdog of a touchdown or less. They are going to stop the run is what Tennessee's going to do, because that's what they always do, and they're going to make Richardson pass. Richardson has not been an effective passer. This is a Tennessee defense that you can beat, but you have to be able to beat it deep. We've seen the graphics on social media, how Richardson only goes to one side of the field. Listen, he runs. He's been effective. He's been in an impossible situation. He's doing a solid job as a rookie, but it's Mike Vrabel. They feel that they're the best team in the division. They want a shot here at the Jaguars. They want to continue moving forward. I think they find a way to get it done. Richardson comes back. Jonathan Taylor, is he playing? Is he not? I don't care. It doesn't matter, as The Rock would say. Give me Vrabel, Tennessee, on the road, favorite, underdog, whatever you have it as. I believe in Derrick Henry. Should get Treylon Burks back. DeAndre Hopkins against that Colts secondary. Muy bueno here.
Okay, so Jonathan Taylor, not an X factor at all in this one. Mini, do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And you know what? All the signs point to him not playing again for the Colts. Like, the Colts just have him right where they want him. Like, he needs to play and get on the field if he wants to advance his contract. And it just doesn't sound like it. Again, there's nothing to back it up. It's just we're hearing some different reports. He wants to play. He's practicing. They could clearly use him. He is a massive upgrade over Zach Moss. There's no question about it. But at the moment, there just seems to be bad blood. And I agree with Mike here. It doesn't matter. Like, the Titans are one of the best rush defenses in all of football. Like, they have allowed fewer than 3 yards per carry. They've been one of the better ones over the past couple of years. And quarterbacks actually just, I think some of the numbers are skewed a little bit, Mike, because teams, they go up against Tennessee, they know they can't run them, but they can pass on them. Like, they allowed the most passing yards last year in the NFL. It's usually a plus matchup for a quarterback, but for Anthony Richardson, who hasn't shown us anything through the air, just gave the stats earlier about passing yards per game, like Bryce Young and then Anthony Richardson near the bottom of the game. 167 yards will not be good enough. And he's going to probably have some issues running against this team as well. I know he has like 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns in 9 quarters. It's very impressive from a fantasy standpoint. And I'm not super impressed with the Titans either, but they've shown me a little bit more on both sides of the ball than the Colts have. So, divisional game, you can take Tennessee plus, I think they're plus 108 maybe on the money line, or you can take this +1. I think it's like -108. Either way, I think the Titans win by a field goal.
Hey, Chris, listen, here's the deal. If you like the Colts in this game, folks, show me. I'm Missouri. I'm the show me state. Let me see Anthony Richardson beat them with your arm. Show me and shut me up. That's what I want to see. I don't think he can do it.
All right. Well, I'm going money line this week, guys. I feel like the last few times I've taken the money line on some of these matchups, it's gone well for me. What hasn't gone well for me, though, is being a New York football fan. I tried to, pick my team. I tried to be like all in with the Giants. But honestly, like the Jets are just, I would say the Jets aren't as disappointing as the Giants have been. I think they've surprised us a little bit more. But I did see this tweet. There was ESPN Stats and Info put it out. Through 4 weeks, only 2 NFL teams have not run an offensive play with the lead this season. Who do you bet those 2 teams are? The Giants and the Jets. I heart NYC.
Classic.
But regardless, I am going with the Jets this week. I'm taking them plus 114 on the money line. I love plus money here for this one. I know Denver finally got everybody excited for Russell Wilson because they rallied from that 21-point deficit. But Zach Wilson played an incredible game despite the loss. And he took I loved listening to him talk after the game, him taking just full responsibility. Hey, this was my fault. This is a guy who has so much pressure on himself and not realizing Aaron Rodgers was going to go down so early. And here he is just taking control, plays this phenomenal game, ends up essentially taking the blame for everything. That just says a lot about him. And I think his confidence moving forward. So I'm really loving where Zach Wilson and this offense is at for the Jets. And I do, whatever we saw with Denver, great, exciting, but they did allow Justin Fields to throw 4 touchdowns. Not to mention the Broncos are 0-3 against the spread, and I think the line's only 1.5. So I feel really good right here about going plus 114 for the Jets. Thoughts? Arguments?
Zach Wilson did look good. I say that.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah, Chris.
I was just going to say.
Pick Russell Wilson this week. You've been hating on Wilson, and
I have picked against Russ all. Yeah. I was on the Broncos last week, but it didn't look good, right? They came back against Chicago, and Fields has looked awful, basically since he's been a starting quarterback, and he looked good in that game. So what does that say about the Broncos defense? I was just going to say one thing, Mike, in this, it's a crazy statistic. There's only been one quarterback that has had a game against Patrick Mahomes where he's had more passing yards, more completions, and more passing touchdowns than Mahomes, and that was Zach Wilson last week. Zach Wilson had a really good game. He made some good anticipation throws. He looked good. I felt for him when he lost the ball on one of the snaps, and that kind of put the game out of reach. But this is a stay away from me. Just brutal football teams. I would lean to the under on the 43.5. I don't, even though the Broncos defense has been so awful. Jets have that defense, so I would lean with you, Abby. The Jets can pull off that upset because of the better defense. I would like to see Mike just a little bit more Breece Hall. I'd like to see him get some more touches, and we'll see if this is the week.
Yeah, I was going to say, Abby, you want to do that? I would parlay it with Breece Hall. Robert Saleh came out this morning and said he thinks there's no restrictions on Breece Hall. They're going to let him go. Broncos on the rush defense, a sieve. We saw that Khalil Herbert rose from the dead. He actually produced last week. Breece Hall should have a big game. If you like the Jets, you can parlay it there with Breece Hall, who I think is going to be let go, and he can have some big explosive runs.
I can get behind that. I like that. Expert advice right there, putting our heads together for making the most of our money. Okay, so then we got Philly, the only other unbeaten team. We already hit the Niners. Philly's the only other unbeaten team in the NFL. Mentioned it off the top. They were taken into OT last week. A little testy for Eagles fans. Mimi, how'd you feel about that?
Not great. I was on Washington. I wish I would have came in with that one. The Commanders play the Eagles tough. Last year, they ended their unbeaten streak. They had won in Philadelphia the year before that as well. They know how to play the Eagles, and Philly is really escaping here to start the season. They're still not anywhere close to the team that they were last year on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively. We've seen some quarterbacks. I've seen some quarterbacks kind of pick them apart. They struggle with Terry McLaurin. Mac Jones has looked awful this year, but he was good in week 1 against Philly's secondary as well. This is a game where you got to travel all the way to the West Coast. So the plus 4.5 here, I think that the Eagles will win this game, but I am on the Rams.
Wow.
Plus 4.5. Stafford has impressed me. He's got 3 300-yard games. Puka Nacua over 500 yards and 50 targets and 39 grabs. Like, who is this guy? It's an unbelievable story what he's doing. I don't think Cooper Kupp will return, but it's possible that he does play in this game. The Rams have been competitive. They're hanging around. They almost choked that game last week up, 3 scores against the Colts, but they were still able to recoup and get it done when it mattered at the end of the game, thanks to Stafford's arm. So field goal game, Philly squeaks one out. I know Mike may have some things to say, but watching this team, you got to think, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. It's taking some time to kind of find some identity. Dallas Goedert has not been involved at all in the offense. There's some disconnect between Hurts and some of the receivers, but I will lean with Philly to win this game and in a tight one. I think the Rams have been competitive, and they may even be a live dog.
I'm impressed with your objectivity, Mr. Meany. Very impressed, and I like it as well. We don't know the status of Cooper Kupp. Eagles on the road. Didn't like what I saw against Washington. That offensive line is horrific. They actually were able to do some things with Sam Howell. Sam Howell can do it. We know Matthew Stafford can do it too. So impressive. Again, you know me, guys. Home team getting points. I'm always going to be tempted, and I'm even more tempted with Mr. Meany backing the Rams here. Getting the game.
Love it. Okay, I want to bring up the London game just because these are fun and they're different. And again, I hit the under on that this week. So, but this could be, I'm just curious your thoughts on this, right? So the total is at 49 points right now. I think Meany, you fact checked that earlier. The Jags are staying in London. The Bills are traveling. So the travel situation for the Jags isn't going to be as big of a deal because I know that was something that we talked about last week and why this might be a game that goes under. So the Jags put up 23 points over the Falcons. The Bills 48 points over the Dolphins, which is crazy. So 2 teams that have their offenses rolling. I don't know, do we think that the travel and the time change and just the London thing will affect the Bills offense? 49 points is pretty high too. So how are we feeling about the over-under on this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I think, the Jaguars play the Bills close. The ghost of Urban Meyer, they found a win against them at home. They're staying there in London. They're going to be ready. Teams go across. They take a while to get going here. Bills defenses look tremendous, especially against Washington. I think it's a very sharp play. This should be a close game. Bills coming riding high off the Dolphins game. We had a Dolphins team coming in after destroying the Broncos. We saw what happened. Now the Bills, after that big win, division rival. Now they're playing the Jags over in London. Just smells like some weird stuff going on here. So I like it. I like the play.
Yeah, and our model likes Jacksonville, right? At plus 5.5, like an 8.7% edge.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be something to be said about staying there, right? Like you just said it, Abby. They played the game. They're used to going over there as well. And staying there for the entire week and getting on that time schedule and the Bills going there. I love the point that Mike made, that emotional win against Miami, maybe a little bit of a letdown spot here, but I haven't been super impressed with Jacksonville. I'm not even impressed with that win against the Falcons. Desmond Ridder was pathetic in that game. He threw a couple picks. They're still struggling offensively. Jacksonville, Travis Etienne is getting the touches, but he's not doing a whole lot with them. Calvin Ridley he leads the NFL in drops. Christian Kirk has been great. I think that just the Bills are so complete on both sides of the football that if they find a way to score 30 points in this game, they'll cover. And I would lean with Buffalo winning by a touchdown, but I hope that we see a shootout and a fun game and, maybe a field goal last second win. But my lean right now is with the Bills, and I would have a slight lean to the under because of Jacksonville stuttering on offense. And the Bills think what they did to Miami, right? I mean, Miami was coming off a 70-point showing. Everybody's talking about the best offense in history. And Buffalo said, relax. Settle down, Tua and company. And that game wasn't even competitive on Miami's side. They weren't even really in that game.
I know. I've been so high on Tua and the Dolphins. It's
still good. Buffalo's is really good.
Buffalo's so good. Okay, gentlemen, any final thoughts for this one? I think we kind of hit all of our main points. Yeah.
I got to get Mike's thoughts on Cincinnati and Arizona.
Oh, you want to go that? Okay, we can do that. Can do that.
Yeah, is this stay away? Do you have a lean 2.5 to 3.5 Cincinnati, a must-win situation? We talked about Burr off the top of the show. If they lose this game, that's it for them. It's all over. Is there any sort of feeling that you have where Burrow could just snap the fingers and get it right in a situation like this on the road, and Arizona's been competitive.
Chris, so much of what we do is trying to decipher what is fact and what is fiction in the preseason. When Jamar Chase came out after Joe Burrow got injured and said he should not play until after week 5, that was very telling. Soothsayer, if you will, Jamar Chase. He is not healthy. He can't throw it deep. I am going with Arizona, and so is our model, 9.3% edge, and the model's hitting at a 70% clip. Arizona +3, 61.7% probability of winning. Don't like the Bengals. Don't like what's going on. T. Higgins is injured. They're talking about trading him. Tyler Boyd looks dust. Irv Smith was hurt. Can't protect him. He can't throw deep. Arizona's played well. They've been competitive. They even came back last week against San Francisco to a certain extent. I mean, if not for 4 touchdowns, that game is probably a 1-score game. I'm going with Arizona. I'm selling on the Bengals, and I just want to click the correct mark on the FTN bets preseason under 11.5 win total for the Bengals that I put in. Easy money. Fading the Bengals.
Money.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no chance they win 12 games. No chance.
Ladies and gentlemen, check in on your Bengals fans this week. Just make sure they're good, because
they're not.
It might not
good.
Really
they're
good.
On edge.
It could be really bad after this week. So just go ahead and, how you doing? Give them a little grace.
I think
okay.
Wins,
All right, guys. This is great stuff per usual. Excited for week 5. I can't believe I feel like it's like you said, it's October. Also October, best time of the year. We got everything going on, baseball playoffs, hockey starting, heart of NFL college football season. Make sure you get some sleep. That is the biggest key. So then you can truly, be smart about your decisions when it comes to making the best plays. All right. I love it. Join us every week for the NFL betting show. Appreciate you all as always. But for this week, I'm Abby Labar, Mike Randle, Chris Meany. We'll see you guys next time.